Hey everybody, real quick before I get started, I want to tell you guys about something new that I'm trying out. I started a new Discord server. It's called One Mic. There is a link to the Discord in the episode description, and there will continue to be a link in the episode description for all subsequent videos. The reason I want to do this is because I wanted to give us all a space to collectively talk about all of the shows that I'm covering so we don't have to talk across each other in the comments or maybe miss some comments or miss some replies. I think it's a good place for us fans who are fans of the shows that I cover, fans of this channel, whatever that may be, for us all to get together and just kind of like talk about the show. So what I did was I created the server and then I created channels within it for each show that I'm covering at that time. Right now it's set up to cover the, I think, 4 or so shows that I'm covering right now, and then I've added channels for shows that I'm going to be covering in the month of December that I know for sure. And then as I'm covering shows will cycle in and out. So like once I'm done covering a show, a channel will be deleted, and then once I start covering a show, a new channel will be added. So check out that Discord. I look forward to talking to you guys, and now let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch it so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about season 1 of the new Netflix series Wednesday, starring Jenna Ortega as the lovable, we all love her, right, Wednesday Addams. So I'm going to talk about some of the people involved real quick, and then I'm going to talk about this show, which I found to be pretty enjoyable, but there are some little things that we're gonna have to work through here, especially if you're older than about 17 years old. There might be some things you might have to work through, but I don't want that to sound like shade, though. I really did enjoy this show. So the showrunners on this show, I'm talking about this because I want to talk a little bit about what pulled me into it, because I don't really remember the movies. I think I saw the first one, the one from like the early 90s, I think. I mainly remember the old black and white TV show. Now, granted, I'm not that old. I wasn't watching it live, like on primetime CBS or whatever the fuck it came on. I watched it in syndication. My mom watched it a lot, so I'm more familiar with the TV show than I am with the movies, but I was familiar nonetheless. I've always felt something of a kinship with Wednesday Addams. We have a mutual hatred of humanity, so I can I can really see eye to eye with her on that. But those are just a couple of the things that pulled me in. Tim Burton's involvement pulled me in. This feels like the kind of thing that he would be really good with. And then the showrunners are fairly well accomplished as well. Alfred Goff and Miles Miller, or Millar, I don't know, are the showrunners. They're a pair, and this pair has written Into the Badlands, which was an AMC show that I didn't see, but I wanted to watch at the time. It didn't last long, so I guess it wasn't all that great. But they wrote that. But they also wrote Smallville, which is there's a show that pretty much everyone has at least heard of. Ran, I don't know how many seasons, but 200 plus episodes. Very, very, very popular show. And then they also wrote Spider-Man 2, which, argue with your ugly ass auntie, is the best Spider-Man movie still, despite No Way Home and Far From Home, whatever the fuck you want to. Whichever one you want to point out, Spider-Man 2 is still the best one. Go argue with somebody else. Like I mentioned, it stars Jenna Ortega as Wednesday. She was in the most recent Scream film, which I didn't see, but she was in it. Maybe she did. I'm assuming she probably did good. I enjoyed her in, I believe it was the most recent season of You on Netflix. That was where I was introduced to her. She's done a lot of voice roles in the past. She does a voice on the show called Jurassic Park Crustacean Nation. I don't know what the fuck. No, Camp Crustacean, I think is the name of it, not Crustacean Nation. Crustacean Nation is a way better title. Anyway, she does a voice on that show. My kids watch that, my daughters. So I've at least heard. It should be Crustacean Nation, man. That's perfect. But I think it's called like Camp Crustacea. But yeah, I enjoyed Jenna Ortega on You. I thought she was great in this. She fucking crushed it. I think she's one of those up-and-coming actresses that we're going to want to look for in the future. Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Morticia. We all knew this. If you saw the trailer, you knew that. She I think did a very good job. She continues to look beautiful. I don't know how old she is. She's probably in her like 60s or some shit, but she still looks great. Luis Guzman plays Gomez. This was one of the flaws in the casting, in my opinion. Not a fan of him in general, but particularly not a fan of him as Gomez Addams. Because with Gomez Addams, you want to have a little bit of a swag, be a little bit debonair, because you know he's extra lovey-dovey with his wife. Luis Guzman gives you like Mexican, no, I don't know where he's from. Well, Latin Tracy Morgan kind of, and like that's just not. No one's looking at Tracy Morgan and Luis Guzman and like, let me get that dick. Like nobody. Well, not nobody. I mean, there's, but not off the strength of. Let me stop. I don't need to shade these people. But Luis Guzman plays Gomez Adams. Fred Armisen plays Uncle Fester. We only see them. I think we see Morticia, Gomez, and Lurch in like I think only 2 episodes. The first one and episode 5, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And then we only see Uncle Fester in 1 episode. I think it was episode 7. So just as the show is titled Wednesday, Wednesday is pretty much the only Addams Family character we consistently see, along with Thing, who pops up fairly frequently throughout the season. Gwendolyn Christie plays Principal Weems. She's the principal of the school Nevermore that Wednesday attends. I think we all know her best as Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. And then Riki Lindholm, or Ricky, I don't know how you pronounce it. She plays Dr. Kinbot, who's a therapist on the show. I mostly know her. She had a really great part on The Big Bang Theory that I mostly remember her from. And then, of course, saving the best for last, Christina Ricci continues her career resurgence as the only normie. That's what they call the non-weirdos on the show. They call them normies, which isn't that like a TV-14 kind of name? Like I feel like you give something a little bit more scathing if this show was for adults. But she's the only normie teacher at Nevermore. Her name's Miss Thornhill. I just gotta say, Christina Ricci has been a joy to experience in her last couple of roles. I'm really glad for the success she's having, and it was super cool seeing her in an Addams Family property again. I didn't mention this, but if you watched Wednesday, you probably know Christina Ricci played Wednesday Addams in the movies in the 90s. So, like I alluded to already, the show I'm not the demographic for this show. Like, this is a show for, like, I would say preteens to, like, teens. Just because of, like, a lot of the themes that they try to impress upon the viewer. It's very light on profanity. I think I probably already cursed more in this video than they did in the whole season. I think they say shit twice, and that's the worst you're gonna get of the cursing. The violence is all kind of like off screen. Like you'll see the aftermath. You might see a character bleeding, but you don't actually see like weapons piercing skin and shit like that. But really all it boils down to is that this ain't Stranger Things. Like this probably, like people probably feel like, oh, this might be like Stranger Things. It's not Stranger Things. Stranger Things is for adults, especially adults who are old enough to remember the 80s. This is not for adults at all. But does that mean you can't enjoy it? No, because like the same thing, is Toy Story for adults? No, it's for kids, but there's plenty there for adults to enjoy, and I think that this show does provide some of that, even though it is very clearly meant for a different demographic. I talked about the themes earlier. They all kind of revolve around being confident in who you are, the idea that you can be yourself and still be popular, or still, the hot guy could still want to fuck you, anti-bullying stuff, like all those kinds of things that is really going to resonate with your standard 13, 14-year-old, something like that. But talking about the show in general, it's essentially a whodunit. After Wednesday gets kicked out of, like, I think they said it was like her 8th school that she'd been kicked out of, she ends up at this school called Nevermore Academy, and it's a school for outcasts. I put it in quotes again because just like normies, that's what they call the people that aren't weirdos at this school, or in general, they call them normies, because the school is for outcasts. And then the people at the school are considered to be outcasts. You got people like Wednesday who are just like weirdos and shit. And then you have like various monsters you might have read about in stories like werewolves and sirens, things like that. Just kind of like common fairy tale monsters and shit like that. But it doesn't delve too much into that sort of thing, but that's who these kids are. So you remember what I said about the show putting a heavy emphasis on being yourself? Well, they didn't really use a light touch in referring to these people as outcasts, but that's what you're supposed to take away, though, is that even as an outcast, like, you could still get laid. And I think that's like the biggest takeaway that this show wants to give you, is that, like, you can be someone who might be considered an outcast in your everyday life, whether you're a nerd or you're a monster. You might not be a werewolf, but you might be somebody who likes something that people make fun of you about, or you get bullied for, whatever the case may be. This show wants you to know you can still fuck. Like you can still get it up. And there's no sex on this show. Being honest, there's no sex on the show. But Wednesday like simultaneously has two. I want to call them hot guys because I'm like they're within the context of the show. They're like 16-year-old boys or whatever. But like what you are meant to consider is to be like the hot guys at the school kind of deal. She has two of them like that are totally head over heels for her at the same time, and like that's just not the reality of what. If you were to make something about somebody like Wednesday that's not meant for this age bracket, you might have her having a little bit harder of a time finding some love from the guys. But she does, and I think it actually is, even though I'm kind of speaking about it in kind of a mean way, right? But I don't mean it that I think this is needed for this show, especially when you have just the way things have been in this country. And when I say the way things have been, what I mean is like the fact that bullying has been rampant in this country over the course of however long. It's just really ramped up, I'd say, over the course of the last 10 years or so. And then you end up with these kids who get bullied and these school shootings and all this kind of shit, right? And you have these kids who are not comfortable with who they are, and their bullying leaves school and, follows them home via TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or whatever the fuck, right? So it's like these kids need these kinds of lessons, and they need them in a way that doesn't feel so Full House. You know what I'm saying? Like this don't feel Full House at all. So it works, even though I'm kind of making fun of it. I mean, I watched the whole fucking thing, so what am I gonna make fun of it for? I watched it enough. I watched all 8 episodes, so I must have liked it enough. But talking real quickly, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, and I also don't want to get into spoiling you guys or anything that happens. But talking about the plot real quick, there's a string of murders, and Wednesday essentially takes it upon herself to solve this mystery. The mystery about the murders also kind of ties in with her own personal ancestry as well. It kind of feels like, oh, there's 2 separate mysteries, but no, the 2 things are obviously going to tie together. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the mystery that revolves around her ancestry is obviously, because I wouldn't have said ancestry, it revolves around someone who's an ancestor of hers. So of course there's going to be a connection there. But the show, as far as like the story, it's fairly formulaic in structure. And I'm not meaning that as an insult. I'm just telling you what the fuck it is. It's like the basic structure for whodunit with like a lot of misdirections. Like they try to steer you in the direction of almost like a new suspect I can't say every week, but every episode. Like I don't think they do it for every episode, but they probably point you at about 4 or 5 different people as the potential murderer / monster. The murderer is a monster, and they explain everything in the finale, usually via a monologue by the recently revealed bad guy. They do the same thing here, and again, I'm not shitting on it because, like, be perfectly honest, like, Only Murders in the Building has the exact same structure, and I love that show. So it's nothing about the structure. It's just a matter of like, hey, this is what it is. Just go into it knowing that you are more than likely not the demographic, and it's gonna be a little formulaic and predictable if you're accustomed to the genre and how it works. If you're not, then you're probably gonna enjoy this even more than I did, because those things kind of took me out of it, because I figured out who the murderer / monster was in like episode 3 or 4, and the only reason it took that long is because that's how long it took for me to realize that the show was gonna be about the whodunit. Like, but there's things that are happening in the first 3 episodes. I'm just kind of like, okay, learning about this environment and what's going on, meeting the characters, all that kind of stuff. I'm not thinking about where is this going. Once it snapped into my mind that like, okay, this is going the direction of a whodunit, I instantly knew who the whodunit was. But like I said, if you're someone who is accustomed to this genre, then you're not gonna find too many surprises here. But like I said, there's a whole lot of other stuff that's really enjoyable, like Jenna Ortega as Wednesday. She does a great balance of like the wit and the sarcasm, which is what makes her likable. She crushes that. I think my favorite line of the whole season, she says, "I brought my pocket mace," and then she pauses and she's like, "the medieval kind." And anytime someone makes a joke about a mace, and a mace, not mace like the little spray, but she says the medieval kind that like stick that had the ball with the spikes on it and you swing it around and shit. Anytime somebody makes a joke about a mace, I'm a fan. Obviously, that doesn't happen too often, but I am a fan. But then also, this is still a three-dimensional character here. It's not all sunshine and lollipops. Wednesday is uniquely selfish and manipulative, and it's due to her incredibly low value for humanity, which again, I mean, I can relate. You know, she doesn't have the greatest opinion of people. I understand, but it makes her treat people like shit. But they give her some great moments too. I think the one that stands out, there's a dance scene in episode 5 that's absolutely fucking incredible, and Ortega absolutely fucking crushes it. Emma Myers, I didn't mention her at the beginning because most of the people who play Wednesday's peers are actors that I'm just not familiar with. And Emma Myers, I'm not really familiar with her either, but she plays Enid, who is Wednesday's roommate and eventual friend. And what a, like, heartwarming character, like almost to a fault. Like, she would give you the shirt off of her back, she'd turn into a werewolf and fight a monster for you. Like, she's too good for Wednesday, because like I said, Wednesday is very selfish and manipulative, and by the time we get to the end of the season, of course, these two develop a nice bond. But Emma Myers does such a great job with this character. Like, you can't watch this show and not love Enid. Like, I was at a point where I'm like, if they even think about harming Enid, I'm gonna be mad as fuck. Like, if they kill off this character and they're like, oh, there's no Enid in season 2. Well, fuck season 2 then. But like I said, overall, I have a couple of quick thoughts I want to close out with. But just again, recapping, general thoughts. Ortega is great, witty, sarcastic, very funny. Also, still three-dimensional and real. Treats people like shit because that's who she is. Great cast in general. I think the friends at the school were but like in general, cast is great. The mystery had me pulled in like immediately. Like, I was interested. I was invested in what happened. Probably like episode 2. I'm like, okay, I'm interested in seeing where this is going. Oh, I forgot to mention Tim Burton. Tim Burton directed the first 4 episodes, which again, another pro. Pro is in the opposite of con, not pro is in short for professional. Another pro, and you can. I don't want this to sound like an insult. I keep saying this. I don't want this to sound like an insult, but you can tell the difference between the Burton episodes and the non-Burton episodes. The non-Burton episodes, the back 4, they lack what I like to call Tim Burton's vibrant darkness. It's like what I mean by that is, and I don't even necessarily mean vibrant in like visuals, like colors, but I mean vibrant in like energy, right? You can watch a Tim Burton movie that's dark in a very literal sense. Like, dark as in everybody's wearing black, dark as in it's always nighttime. But then you can also have someone in clown makeup dancing to Prince in a museum. So like, that's what I mean about dark vibrance, in that there could be such a high energy in a Burton film, or in this case a television show, that's very in contrast with the visual appearance. And there's something about that I just really fuck with. And that's lessened in the final 4 episodes. And again, not a knock, just an observation. But that's another one of the things that really pulled me into this show. If I was going to talk about the cons, I would say, again, the kids at the school, not great, but not distractingly bad either, or anything like that. I wouldn't even call them bad, just not great. You know, they're fine. Like Luis Guzman, not great. He's fine, whatever. It's very, like I said, the formulaic structure. And then again, most importantly, I just want to impress upon you guys, this is not Stranger Things. It is for like teenagers around that age. But again, like I said, Toy Story's for kids too. It's fucking great. So I just don't want anybody going into this thinking that they're going to get like TVMA Addams Family. No, you are very much getting TV-14 Addams Family. Very much so. So I just wanted to impress upon that to you guys. Another quick thought, I didn't like the episode 5 was like this side adventure with this is where they bring back Morticia and Gomez, and they do this little side adventure to work on solving this mystery about Gomez that might have killed somebody when he went to the school. I didn't really need that episode. That episode was not it. It should have been more like episode 7, which is where they brought in Fester, but Fester was there to help with the mystery we were already familiar with, as opposed to like feeling like we're taking a diversion and handling this Gomez mystery in episode 5 and then coming back. I just didn't really feel like we needed that. And then lastly, there's a tying into the ancestry part of Wednesday's story. I said that, this ties into an ancestor of hers that went to the school as well. Well, actually, I don't know. That ancestor didn't go to the school. She was around like Pilgrim times, right? And the Pilgrim that was around during this time, this is the only spoiler I'm going to give you. They bring this guy back to life at the end, and the makeup, they make him look like the Leprechaun from the Leprechaun movies in the 90s, and it's so like spot on that it feels like they're trolling us. Like they're doing it on purpose. Like, we're going to make this look like the Leprechaun. And I don't know to what end. But like, for some reason, this Pilgrim, his name Joseph Crackhouse or some shit, like he looks just like the fucking Leprechaun from the Leprechaun movies. I don't know why. Really was like distracting how much this looked like the Leprechaun. But that's all I got. Really enjoyed the show. Let me know what you thought in the comments. It seems like everybody's watching it, so let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.